All right, folks, we are back, and we are continuing, and we are joined once again by David Swerdlick, writer for TheRoot.com. Hello, David.
Hey, Steve. Thanks for having me.
No, thanks for making the accommodation. I know time was tight, and I appreciate that. Your piece, sorry, Duck Dynasty, that's so capital to fire him. Nobody's guaranteed a job. No one's guaranteed total free speech if they work for a network or have a job where they're in the public eye. And candidates lose campaigns because they say the wrong thing, and so I agree with that. But you call him, or you say his inner homophobe came out, for instance. Tell me what your problem with what he said was.
Well, here's my problem, Steve. If he had simply come out and said, look, he's a Christian, and in his belief system that he didn't condone gay marriage, or he had an issue with the gay orientation, that would have been one thing. I think that would have been just a simple statement of this is where I stand on the issue. I read that GQ interview as him kind of going out of his way to really rip gays and lesbians and, comparing them to, terrorists, idolaters, drunkards. To me, that was gratuitous, and he has every right to say it. He has a constitutional right to say what's on his mind. But I think people have a right to take offense at that, and I do think it's homophobic. In the same vein, what's been less played upon in the media is some of the stuff that he said, some really condescending stuff that he said about African Americans that I think also is, something that he should be, taking a task for.
All right. Well, let me ask you. We just had on the head of the Log Cabin Republicans, the Republican gay group, a great gay advocacy group, and he was more offended by the Obamacare ad aimed at the LGBT community, which we played a portion of, which shows a bunch of men in underwear dancing around and touching each other and singing and telling you to sign up for Obamacare. He thought that was more offensive because it portrayed and promoted gay stereotypes, which he said leads to people like Robertson coming up with the images of gay men that he has. But that aside, let me play devil's advocate. I haven't really addressed the racial remarks, but I'm just playing devil's advocate based on what I remember he said. I think he put himself in that he used to work next to or alongside black people in the fields, and they never said anything wrong. If that was, I'm just saying, devil's advocate. I'm not defending him. Don't get me wrong. You hear me? Media matters. I'm not defending him. But if that was his experience, if they never complained to him, what do you think you're getting with Robertson? You think you got a brain surgeon? I mean, so he said, I never heard them complain, so they must have been happy. They seemed happy to me. Is that racist?
No, I didn't call him racist, and I want to make it clear that I'm not calling him racist. To me, to call someone racist, you got to know what's in their heart, and I don't know what's in Phil Robertson's
But you called him homophobic.
Well, I felt like I had enough information to call him homophobic based on what I read in that GQ interview. When you're talking about what he said about African Americans, you're right. He put himself in the scenario, described himself as white trash, said he was hoeing cotton alongside black people in the pre-civil rights days as, quote, pre-welfare, and he said that black people were, quote, singing and happy, and that he never heard black people complain about how they were treated by white people. Back then, that to me flies in the face of the history we know in this country, and it flies in the face of, I think, the way most African Americans, I'm not going to speak for all African Americans, would look upon the situation. That doesn't make him a racist. It just means that I think he's condescending to people when he says that. And he went out of his way to say it in a national magazine interview. It's not like he was overheard saying it in private, right?
No, right. He said it. He said in a public interview. Could it be, instead of purposely condescending, that he didn't see anything wrong with what he said?
Well, I fair enough that he didn't see anything wrong with it. I see something wrong with it. I think it's perfectly, appropriate for people like me or other writers to kind of call him out for it. Look, this guy has a hugely popular TV show. God bless him if he's making a lot of money on TV. But as a duck hunter and as an entrepreneur, but look, when you say something, you meaning Phil Robertson says something that in my view, again, I'll use the word condescending, is condescending, then people are going to react to it, and the reaction is going to be, hey, just because you're famous and because you're folksy and have a big mountain man beard doesn't mean people aren't going to hold you accountable for things that you say.
We're talking to David Swerdlick, writer for TheRoot.com. You know the Kanye West controversy. He said about Jews, that Jews, oil people and Jews, they control, they have lots of money and they control things. And Louis Farrakhan came out and told him, don't apologize, don't listen to Abe Foxman, you have nothing to apologize for. Well, here's what Kanye West said as an explanation to what he originally said. Cut 23.
And also, there was another statement that I think that, I thought that I was giving a compliment, but if anything, it came off more ignorant when I said this comment about, Jews having money and blacks not having money like that. I think that it was kind of like an ignorant compliment.
Who did you say that to?
I think it was like an ignorant compliment. But what happened is I was on I don't know how being told that you have money is like an insult. Right. That would be like if somebody complimented black guys and said all black guys got big penises, and then you don't want to be the black guy that raised your hand like, no, that's not true. I got proof.
I have a small one. So he tried to weasel out of it, saying it was a compliment. What's your take on that?
No, I'll say the same thing about Kanye that I'm saying about Phil Robertson. It's condescending. I don't think it makes Kanye a racist or an anti-Semite, but his remarks were condescending, and they're out of order. And I feel like I can listen to the tone of his voice and say, just like you said, he's trying to wiggle his way out of it. He knows he said something that was foul. Right. And I'm not going to defend Kanye either. I won't even address Farrakhan.
No, that's all right. He was just a throw-in. I just said for background.
No.
Hey, David, have a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year. I look forward to talking to you next time, sir.
Thanks again, Steve.
Thank you. My pleasure. David Swerdlick, ladies and gentlemen, writer for TheRoot.com. The Root. In the next hour, we're going to speak to the great Andy McCarthy. We're also going to talk to the senior editor of the New Republic, who wrote a piece called An Atheist's Guide to Christmas. Yes, that should be a whole lot of fun, folks. All straight ahead. Easy to say. When we come back, Steve Malzberg Show, Newsmax TV and Radio.